Well, we've got two people with radically different viewpoints. In New York is the former Conservative MP Louise Mensch. But first, joining us here in the studio, a man you've just seen in that film by Katie Razzle, Alexei Sayle. And of course, in the end, she was God's gift to you.
She was, because I think of her as the first kind of modern personality disorder politician. I think that's why Blair is so cut up, because they're similar, they've got similar borderline narcissistic personality disorder, that she was just bonkers. I mean, she just seemed completely nuts. And when people abroad said, oh, you know, you're represented by Margaret Thatcher, we were completely embarrassed if you were like a left-winger, because you thought, this woman is crazy. This woman is completely false. This woman has a complete kind of messianic sense of her own rightness. This, you know, we are a grandmother. This is just a string of kind of cliches and prejudices strung together. It didn't mean she wasn't an effective politician, but it was just the prejudice strung together as policy, you know.
But, I mean, the fact is that you had something to kick against,
Yeah.
but she won.
She never.
You lost.
Yeah. But what we had was a disaffected, you know, minority. Although, you know, the majority of the country never voted for her. But what we had was, you had an audience in a club. Yeah, well, it's our democracy anyway, yeah, or democracy. But, comrade, don't get me started. But the Marxism. But, you know, so you had these people in a club who hated her. This, you know, and they had money and they had opinions, and they came out, and you could just, you know, some nights you could just, you know, if you weren't feeling like doing new material, you could just shout Thatcher's a bastard for 20 minutes. You know?
Let's face it, you'll mourn her passing. There is nothing left now.
Well, actually, one of the things, I never, in the end, I never did that much material about Margaret Thatcher, because I thought it was too easy. I blame Ben Elton for all that, and everything else. So I think now, because the world is more bland, it makes you do more interesting material, I actually think. You know.
Alexei Sayle, thanks for the moment. Louise Mensch, obviously you'd have a very different picture, and I believe you came into politics actually precisely because of her.
I did indeed. My earliest political memory is about aged 8, asking my mother if men were allowed to be Prime Minister, because I grew up seeing this woman running the country, and we had a Queen and we had a Prime Minister, and then later on Madonna was ruling the pop charts, and it all seemed like a very woman-dominated era. And I think President Obama was absolutely right when he said that she provided the example that shattered that glass ceiling for his daughters and all our daughters.
Aren't you and Alexei Sayle, in fact, speaking to divided Britain?
I suppose so, but it's quite normal that a country as large as Britain isn't going to be united in its politics. I enjoyed Alexei Sayle as a child of the 80s. I enjoyed watching Ben Elton riffing on a little bit of politics. I love the young ones. We all love that kind of stuff. Thoroughly enjoyed Spitting Image. It doesn't change the fact that Margaret Thatcher was never defeated in a general election. The public liked her, they voted for her again and again. It was only her own party that threw her out, never the voters.
Although, in fairness, as Alexei Sayle pointed out, she didn't actually ever win an actual majority of the voters. I mean, you know, she never got 50%.
Yes, well, Alexei may remember the referendum on AV we had as a price of coalition a couple of years ago, which was so resoundingly defeated. We've always had a first-past-the-post system in the modern post-war politics, and under the system that most Britons prefer, Margaret Thatcher resoundingly won 3 straight general elections.
You slipped away to the other side of the world. Will there be another woman Prime Minister in our lifetime?
Certainly, I'm sure there will. There's a huge amount of incredibly talented Tory women, Theresa May, any number, who could be Prime Minister. I've always had great respect for Yvette Cooper, for Harriet Harman. There's huge depth on the bench in Parliament, and I am sure that we will see another woman Prime Minister.
What's happened to you over there? You're talking Labour.
There's nothing wrong with that. There are talented women on all sides of the political spectrum, and it was heartening today to see Harriet Harman, a great Labour feminist, praise Margaret Thatcher in the strong way that she did, and I give tribute to her for that.
Well, let me thank you, and let me just put that point to Alexei Sayle. Alexei Sayle, the fact is there's not been a left-wing woman lead this country, and it doesn't look immediately as if there's going to be one.
No. And, you know, some women...
You can't take that away from her. She's a woman, the first one to do it.
Yes, yeah. One of the many weird things about her. But, you know, I heard Margaret Beckett also, you know, not taking that line, saying that, you know, the mess that we have now is very much... I'm not no fan of Margaret Beckett, but, you know, that the disaster that the country's in now is, you know, is very much down to Thatcher.
Alexei Sayle, thank you. And Louise Mensch too. And just an apology for a particular word that Alexei used. It may have caused grave offence, and for that we do apologise now.